is Dr. Shannon Tran, and I help busy professionals and executives experience more harmony, more ease, and more freedom in their life. And today I want to talk about a common problem that I see among the busy professionals that I serve. And what I often find is that while they're very successful, they have a very difficult time addressing conflict. They don't like conflict because they often like to be at peace with people, or they want to have harmony in the relationship. So unfortunately, what could often happen is you end up avoiding conflict or just throwing money at the problem or pretending that the problem doesn't exist. And this never really works in terms of a long-term solution, because what happens is problems build up, it leads to misunderstandings, and then you don't really have peace in your relationships. And I really am all about helping professionals be in alignment with the person they want to be, and that often means up leveling your personal leadership skills. So you really lead with that confidence and you become the person that is really able to handle all kinds of difficult situations. So in this video, I'm going to share how you have a difficult conversation without freaking out. So if you have a piece of paper, I really invite you to write this down, and I encourage you to practice it in a lot of your daily situations, because as you practice it, you're going to get better and better. So for yourself, maybe you can think of a situation that you're avoiding. Maybe you have a coworker that you need to confront, or maybe you have a partner that you're working on a project and they're not showing up, or they're not doing their part, or you're doing extra work, their work. So these are often common signs that there's conflict that you're not addressing. And so what I want to do is really give you a framework so you feel like it's much easier, and that there's a lot more ease into having these very difficult conversations, so they can be more enjoyable for you and you're not avoiding them or pushing away the conflict, but you're actually dealing with it. And what happens when you deal with the conflict, you're going to feel more at peace, the conflict stops building, and the person is a lot more clear about what's needed from them for the both of you to get to the next level of success. So the first step is, it often helps to just set up a time where the two of you can talk. I think sometimes when we do it at the last minute because we're anxious, or when we wait for problems to arise, we're not really in the best frame of mind. So set a time. That's step one. Ask for a moment of their time, and you could just basically say that, hey, could I have a moment of your time? Or do you have time this afternoon to check in for a few minutes? So it doesn't have to be this looming cloud over your head. When you schedule a time, it gives you a moment to get prepared, and it also gives that other person a heads up. And the after you've set the time, the next step would be just checking in with the person. And it might even be where you start, hey, remember when we made an agreement about this? Or it could be, remember when we talked about that? So what you're basically doing is you're reconfirming whatever the expectation was. If you didn't have an expectation, that could be why there's conflict, and maybe that's where you start. Let's just pretend the person's name is Bob. Listen, Bob, I want to start by apologizing. I just realized I wasn't clear about what I really needed from you in this project. Or maybe I wasn't clear about when I needed this deadline. Or it could be, what's your understanding of what the agreement was between us? So what happens is you're reconfirming what the expectation is, making sure that the both of you are on the same page about the expectation. Maybe they heard it differently, maybe they weren't aware of the deadline. All kinds of things can happen in between when we've made an agreement with someone and the actual execution of it. So that's step two. The third step is, it really helps if you can have an example, because if it's just your opinion, we can miss things. So it might be, I noticed that it's now been 2 weeks and you haven't worked on the project, or I noticed that this is the third time where X happened, or I noticed that you've been late 3 times this week. Whatever the problem is, when you put it in the words of I notice and you give a very specific example, it helps them to see how the problem is showing up. And that's really important because sometimes when we don't give examples, the person doesn't see how the actual behavior is showing up. So the example helps to ground them in what your concern is and how it's different from the expectation that you've set. So that's the third step. The fourth step is, and this is critical, this is where I really needed to get much better, and I think all of us can, and that is relate the impact. Sometimes we don't think or realize how our behavior and our thinking and our words, all of that has an impact, both good and bad, in situations. And what you can say is, hey, the impact of this is when you're late, it impacts other people. Or when the project isn't done, it means we can't get started on this. Whatever the impact is, it's really important for people to see the impact that it has on other people. And it might just be personal. Hey, when you're late, the impact is it makes me question whether or not I can trust you, or question whether or not you're capable of this, whatever it may be. But it's really important that we share with people the impact that it has, both positive and negative. And then the fifth step is that you want to realign them to the expectation. What can I do to support you in getting back on track? Or what can I do to support you in being successful with this? That way you can see whether or not they need help. If there's an obstacle in the way, you can support them with it. And you also get to hear what they think the obstacle is, if that's even realistic. And then finally, you're just going to close. So it's thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about this. So it's really just 6 simple steps. So in summary, ask for a moment of their time, schedule it. It doesn't need to be with a bunch of people or a spontaneous meeting. Give yourself time to reflect on what you want to talk about. Step 2 is you're confirming the expectation. You're reviewing it together. My understanding was this. What was your understanding? Step 3 is you're providing an objective example. What have you noticed? What's your actual concern? You're going to state that to the person. Fourth is you're going to relate the impact. What impact is this having on you, the relationship, others, in the working environment or at home? Helping people understand the impact gets them connected on a very emotional level. And then fifth, you're going to provide recognition for how to align them with the behavior. How can I support you in getting back on track? What do you need from me? And you're going to see if what they're asking for is realistic. What can you actually provide? Or what is that something maybe they need to learn a new skill, or they need to learn time management, or they may have to make it a priority. And then finally, step 6, you're just going to close. When you practice these 6 simple steps, you don't have to avoid conflict because it provides so much structure and ease into the conversation, and it makes the conversation safe for you and the other person. And more importantly, there's less problems to resolve down the road, because usually what we have is just miscommunication, misunderstanding, and that's often what leads to interpersonal conflict. And the sooner you have a simple way to address conflict, the less conflict you will have, because avoidance is never a way to address conflict. When you avoid, you're actually creating more conflict through avoidance. So this is a simple 6-step process you can use to address conflict without freaking out, to be totally at ease with conflict, because it's really about getting to understand the person better on a deeper level. And when you do that, the person begins to trust you because they know you're not going to put things under the rug or look the other way or ignore the problem, that you have the ability to address a problem. That makes you a much stronger, more confident, trustworthy leader both in your personal life and in your professional life. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you would like support on how to get yourself into more alignment so that your outer goals match your inner beliefs, attitude, expectations, and actions, reach out to me at support@ShannonTran PhD. I would love to help you get in alignment so you can achieve with more ease and accelerate your results and really create the life of flow in all areas of your life. Take care now.